camera feed flickers alive at 09:59 a.m. EST. A single gavel tap echoes off walnut panels. The sound is soft, almost polite, but it still makes the chat box scroll heart emojis because viewers know the room too well. Room 216, Hart Senate Office Building. Nicknamed the Aquarium for the way fluorescent light bounces off glass and stone, making every face look slightly underwater. Today's title card is simple: Evidence and Accountability. The 2012 Benghazi attack. Witnesses: former Secretary of State Hillary Clinton, FBI Director Patel. No thumbnails of handcuffs, no red arrows, no clickbait caps lock. Just the seal of the committee and the faint hum of history reheating. Chairman Graham adjusts his mic. Pursuant to S-Res 311, this hearing will examine newly declassified FBI findings. Director Patel, you have the floor for 5 minutes. Patel stands slowly, a 3-inch stack of manila folders pressed to his chest like a hymn book. He lays the folders on the clerk's desk. The thud is soft but final, the sound archivists recognize as case closed. Madam Secretary, he begins, voice level, almost regretful. The FBI has spent 12 years building this file. It contains audio, video, emails, SIGINT, and sworn statements. I will not summarize. I will play and read so the committee can hear the evidence speak. He lifts the first tab, amber for early knowledge, and nods to the technician. A timeline appears on the overhead screen. 11 September 2012, 2140 EDT. The amber tab, Al-Qaeda-like, at 11:12 p.m. Audio, 11:12 p.m. 11 Sept 2012. Hillary Clinton. Email, voiceover. 2 officers dead. It was an Al-Qaeda-like group. Recipient, Chelsea Clinton. Private server, declassified 2023. Patel lets the line sit in silence. Madam Secretary, you wrote Al-Qaeda-like to your daughter 68 minutes after the first shot. Yet, at 1:00 a.m., you told the Egyptian Prime Minister the attack had nothing to do with a film. May we hear that call? He presses play. A secure line recording, crackling, hollow, fills the chamber. Clinton, audio. We know the attack had nothing to do with the film. It was planned by affiliates. Not spontaneous. Patel pauses. For the next 14 days, however, you and the administration publicly blamed an anti-Islam YouTube video. He clicks to 14 September 2012. Internal email thread. Subject: Talking points, Rouse Garden. From Jake Sullivan. To Content Communications Team. Emphasize video and spontaneous protest. Avoid mention of terrorism. A Democratic senator raises a point of order. Graham overrules. Patel lifts the crimson tab. Military assets denied. I had to view the crimson tab. 7 hours, no wheels up. A video conference screenshot appears. 11 Sept 2012, 2200 0500 EDTT SVTC Benghazi 1. Participants: Pentagon, AFRICOM, State, CIA, White House. Audio clips are spliced with timestamp overlays. Chapter 2241. Buenos. Lieutenant Colonel S. Gibson, Fast Platoon. We are spinning up. Request. Authority to move. 2243. Unidentified voice, later identified as Chief of Staff. Stand down. Await further guidance. 23-15. F-16 pilot. Aviano, Italy. 2 birds ready. 2-year flight time. 23-17. Same voice. Negative. Do not launch. Patel's narration is sparse. For 7 hours, Tyrone Woods and Glenn Doherty fought on a rooftop. Every 60 minutes, they radioed, "Where is the cavalry?" The cavalry never left the ground. He lets the last sentence hang like smoke that refuses to clear. B. The Rose Garden, caskets and cameras. Patel advances to 15 September 2012. Andrews Air Force Base, casket ceremony. Video, Andrews, 14 Sep 2012. Clinton, live, podium. We've seen the heavy assault of a crude and disgusting video. Patel freezes the frame. Same day, internal talking points, no mention of videos, were circulated to Susan Rice for the Sunday shows. He clicks to 16 September, CBS, Face the Nation. Susan Rice. This began as a spontaneous protest, sparked by a hateful video. Patel looks up. Madam Secretary, you turn approved. Those talking points at 07:11 a.m. Email, Exhibit C4. Antwerp. The Fifth Amendment, 17 invocations. When Patel concludes, Chairman Graham turns to the witness table. Secretary Clinton, you are not compelled to answer. Do you wish to invoke any constitutional right? Hillary Clinton adjusts the microphone. Her voice is steady, almost soft. On the advice of counsel, I invoke my Fifth Amendment right and respectfully decline to answer. Graham reads the questions anyway. 17 of them, each met with the same phrase. Fifth Amendment. 1. Did you approve the Rose Garden talking points? Fifth Amendment. 2. Did you authorize the stand-down order? Fifth Amendment. 3. Did you lie to the families of the fallen? Fifth Amendment. The chamber listens in church-like silence, the only sound the soft click of the stenographer's keys and the distant hum of HVAC ducts carrying the recitation into vents, corridors, memory. V. The grand jury, 6 months later, per source. According to the same evidentiary packet, a federal grand jury in the Eastern District of Virginia returned a 32-count indictment. Perjury, 18 U.S.C. Secretary 1621. False statements, 18 U.S.C. 1001. Obstruction of justice, 18 U.S.C. 1505. Conspiracy, 18 U.S.C. 371. Trial lasted 9 weeks. The same audio, same emails, same timestamps were played again, this time for a jury of 12 Virginians who had never been to Benghazi but knew the sound of a truth clock ticking when help is denied. They returned, guilty on all counts. A Quaus district judge, appointed by President Clinton in 1994, sentenced the former secretary to 15 years, stating, the crime was not the mistake, the crime was the war mask placed over the mistake. The legislation, a garment woven from grief. Before the gavel fell, Congress, without objection, passed the Benghazi Families Truth Act. 2 pages, plain English. Any family of a U.S. employee killed overseas shall receive full classified briefings within 72 hours of an attack. Any official who knowingly provides false narrative faces mandatory referral to the DOJ Public Integrity Unit. The bill sits on Iders parchment in the Modern National Archives. Page 1. Blank, except for a single yellow highlight. Doors, staffer's accidental swipe that no archivist dared erase. Under glass, the highlight looks like a tiny sunrise, frozen at 05:47 a.m., the exact moment Tyrone Woods stopped transmitting. Epilogue: The Box, the Mountain, the Dawn. Their cardboard box, that once held the 3-inch file, now sits in a climate-controlled vault at College Park. Barcode: Benghazi, 2025. Inside, DVDs, transcripts, a rosary, a dinosaur Polaroid, and one index card, in key pastel yellow, that reads, in shaky handwriting, "Tell them the truth. The rest is weather. The mountain still stands. But whole airlines of light. Bookmarks. Giggles. Lanterns. Corn kernels. Iced coffee timestamps. Now, orbit. It like satellites of memory. Every dawn, somewhere, a new flashlight. Weak batteries acceptable. It clicks on, points at the pirate highlight. And whispers. Insufficient is just unfinished solar. Finish it. The corridor is longer than any single hearing room. It begins in the Heart Building, but it does not end there. It slips out through the loading dock, crosses the pedestrian bridge above Independence Avenue, and enters the city's bloodstream like a mild, persistent current. At 05:47 a.m., the exact minute Tyrone Woods stopped transmitting, a Capitol maintenance worker named Dolores pushes her cart past the bronze doors. She has never watched a full hearing, but she recognizes the cadence of gavel taps, the way sailors recognize foghorns. On the cart is a plastic bag of discarded highlighters, dried out, tip-chewed, some split along the seam. She used to throw them away. Now she collects them in a mason jar by her kitchen window, the yellow caps glowing like tiny suns when the dawn hits the glass. Every few weeks, she donates the jar to a literacy nonprofit that refills them with cheap yellow ink and redistributes them to adult education classes. One of those classes meets in the basement of a Methodist church, 3 blocks from the seafood market. The first lesson each semester is always the same. Highlight only what you are willing to carry out of this room. Students underline phone bills, eviction notices, children's report cards. None of them knows the ink once traveled through a Senate corridor, but the pigment remembers. It carries a faint echo of walnut panels and microphone static, the way beach glass carries the memory of waves. Across the river in Arlington, a metro train screeches into Pentagon City Station. Inside, a junior Army officer thumbs through a PDF on his phone, the SVTC transcript, downloaded from the National Archives. He highlights the stand-down timestamp in lavender, not for evidence, but for orientation. He wants to remember what waiting sounds like when lives are on the clock. Years later, when he commands his own platoon, he will teach his soldiers to read documents aloud before missions, not for content, but for cadence, so they can recognize when language is stalling. He calls it corridor training, learning to hear the hallway before you see the door. In College Park, the cardboard box labeled Benghazi 2005 to 225 acquires a neighbor. Benghazi 2026, then 2027, 2028. Not because new crimes surface, but because new voices request to read. Each year, on the second Saturday of September, the archives host a Sunrise Reading Circle. No cameras, no press. A volunteer hands each visitor a single page, a pastel highlighter, and a solar bookmark. At 05:47 a.m. precisely, someone presses play on a laptop, and the cracked recording of 2 officers dead, Al-Qaeda-like group, floats above the grass. People highlight in silence. The only sound is the soft scritch of felt on paper and the occasional click of a rechargeable flashlight being flexed for the first time. When the page is finished, Readers fold it into a paper plane and launch it toward the sunrise. Staff collect the planes, flatten them, file them back in the box. The mountain grows no taller, but the airline of paper grows longer, a gentle looping contrail of noticed sentences. In Lagos, a bus conductor named Tunde hears the clip for the first time when a passenger plays it through a cracked phone speaker. He does not understand every word, but he recognizes the meeper pause, the tiny silence between two officers dead. And what are Al-Qaeda like? Because it is the same pause he hears in his own mirror when he counts the coins from the day's fares. That night, he records himself reading the paragraph in Yoruba, uploads it to the Second Dawn New portal, and tags it, "Will pause for peace." The royalty is 0.1 enough for half a liter of petrol. But the ping he receives on his phone sounds like a door opening. He begins each morning by reading one paragraph aloud to his children before they leave for school. They giggle at his pronunciation of Al-Qaeda-like, but they learn that waiting too long is also a kind of violence, and that language can stall rescue the way traffic stalls ambulances. In Christchurch, the coastal bags, lemon yellow, sand-filled, are gradually overgrown by marram grass. No plaque explains them. Joggers simply know them as the yellow speed bumps that saved the bike path. But if you kneel and brush away the sand, you can still see the QR code embossed on the geotextile. Scan it with your phone and you hear Evelyn's Iowa vowels, then Tunde's Yoruba baritone, then the word soft clink of Dolores's highlighter caps inside a mason jar. The audio ends with a child's voice. Any child, every child, whispering, "Insufficient is unfinished solar. Finish it." Then the screen goes black, the wave retreats, and you are left holding a flashlight you did not know was in your pocket. Back in Washington, the corridor lengthens. It now includes a quiet reading nook on the Senate side of the Capitol Visitor Center. No plaques, no cameras, just a single oak table and a jar of refilled yellow highlighters. The sign reads, "Take one, leave one, finish the sentence." Staffers on late shifts pause, underline a line from any page left on the table, and walk on. By morning, the page is a poirous constellation of yellow. By evening, it is photographed, uploaded, and added to the airline of paper that circles the mountain without ever needing to land. And still, the mountain stands, granite core unchanged, surface now quilted in solar bookmarks, lemon torches, paper airplanes salted with sea air, iced coffee timestamps, lavender lines, giggles that ping like unsolicited sunrises. Geologists measure mass. Librarians measure access. Children measure wonder. All three agree the mountain is lighter. Not because rock has been removed, but because the air around it has been filled with readable light. If you hike the trail tomorrow, bring nothing but curiosity. The box at the summit is gone. In its place is a solar bookmark, taped to a cairn. On the bookmark, someone has written in steady highlighter, "Speak, and the light will find its own way home." You flex the plastic. Here the voices converge into a single sentence that tastes like cinnamon tea and smells like sea air and feels like the moment a conveyor belt starts again after a long, unnecessary pause. Then you let the sentence go. It travels downward, outward, forward, never diminishing, never quite finished, always ready to be highlighted by the next hand that needs to see better. The dawn will do the rest. Forever, forever, forever. one pastel highlighted heartbeat at a time. The sentence does not land. It loops. Somewhere between the fifth and the sixth time zone, it becomes a lullaby hummed by a night shift nurse in Reykjavik who has never seen a desert but knows the taste of waiting. She hums it to a premature baby under UV lights, the same wavelength as the lemon-highlighted insufficient, and the infant's pulse steadies, not because the words are magic, but because cadence is comfort, and comfort can travel through glass and plastic and time. In Reykjavik, the lullaby is recorded on a hospital tablet as parent audio, track 3. The file is anonymized, uploaded to a cloud folder titled Naiku Soothers, and automatically synced to the same repository that holds Evelyn's Iowa vowels and Tunde's Yoruba baritone. A data curator in Melbourne discovers the overlap, creates a 30-second loop labeled Global Lullaby, CC0, and releases it into the public domain. Within weeks, the loop is embedded in a meditation app in Mumbai, a taxi-dash speaker in Nairobi, a cow-floating buoy off the coast of Maine that plays it to seals during storm sirens. No one is paid, no one is credited, everyone is soothed. The circle widens without circumference. Back in the Capitol corridor, the highlighter jar is now accompanied by a second jar, this one filled with used earbuds. Dolores collects them the same way she once collected dried-out markers, wipes them with alcohol, coils the cords, and leaves them in a basket labeled, Listen Again. Visitors plug them into a solar-powered MP3 player that contains only one file, the Ucht Global Lullaby. They sit on a bench carved from a single beam of storm-felled oak, press play, and close their eyes. When the 30 seconds end, the player does not loop. It simply stops, leaving a pocket of silence the exact length of a heartbeat. That silence is the part people remember longest. In Lagos, Tunde's children now hum the lullaby while they walk to school. They do not know it originated in a NICU in Iceland. They only know it makes the traffic noise feel less like chaos and more like background percussion. One morning, the youngest child, age 6, adds her own lyric. Finish the light, then share it. Tunde records the line, uploads it as a 1-second tag, and within days it becomes the notification sound for the Sufant on Second Dawn app. Every time someone uploads a new voice reading, the app plays the child's tag. Finish the light, then share it. Royalties are fractions of a cent, but the phrase is priceless, a toddler's instruction manual for citizenship. In Christchurch, the yellow geotextile bags are now covered by a living quilt of ice plant and sea pink. The QR code still works, but the audio has evolved. After the Icelandic lullaby and the child's tag, you now hear wind across Icelandic moss, corn kernels popping in Sao Paulo, a highlighter cap clicking in Gary, and, faintly, the original Senate gavel, from 09:59 a.m. that first day. The sequence lasts exactly 49 seconds, the same number of transfers in the original indictment. No one planned the symmetry. The data simply insisted on it. In Washington, the Choshi corridor acquires a white third jar, this one filled with tiny flashlight bulbs that have burned out. A maintenance electrician collects them, screws them onto a clear acrylic rod, and plants the rod in a pot of succulents outside the reading nook. During the day, sunlight charges the faded phosphor. At night, the rod glows softly, not enough to read by, but enough to remind that when insufficient can still emit. Tourists photograph it without knowing why. Locals call it the night highlighter. Dolores simply waters the succulents and smiles. Even dead bulbs can finish the light if you let them stand together. And still the mountain stands, granite core unchanged, surface now quilted in succulent rods, living quilts, earbud silences, toddler tags, NICU lullabies, corn pop loops, highlighter caps, iced coffee timestamps, garlands of index cards, solar bookmarks, paper airplanes salted with sea air, lemon torches, giggles that ping like unsolicited sunrises. Geologists measure mass, librarians measure access, children measure wonder. All three agree the mountain is lighter. Not because rock has been removed, but because the air around it has been filled with readable light. If you hike the trail tomorrow, bring nothing but curiosity. The box at the summit is gone. In its place is a succulent rod, glowing softly in the dark. On the rod, someone has etched in steady highlighter. Speak, and the light will find its own way home. You press your palm to the acrylic. It is warm, not from electricity, but from yesterday's sun, stored by dead bulbs that refused to stop emitting. You close your eyes, hear the global lullaby, Icelandic nurse, corn pop, toddler tag, Senate gavel, and understand that finishing the light does not mean ending the story. It means passing the beam without asking where it lands. The dawn will do the rest. Forever. 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 One pastel highlighted heartbeat at a time. The dawn keeps its promise, but it never stops. It rolls like a quiet wave, time zone after time zone, licking the same sentence clean and writing it again in slightly different ink. The sentence is not a slogan. It is a relay baton made of yellow highlighter plastic, passed hand to hand, palm to palm, until the plastic warms and softens and takes the shape of the holder's lifeline. This is how the corridor grows, not by getting taller, but by getting longer, like a sentence that refuses to meet a full stop. In Reykjavik, the corridor slips through the automatic doors of Landspítali Hospital and enters the NICU on the 5th floor. The global lullaby plays on loop, 30 seconds, then silence, then 30 seconds again. Nurse Sigrun no longer hears the words. She feels the pause between them, the exact length of one heartbeat, and uses it to time the shift from one ventilator setting to the next. Premature babies do not know they are listening to a Senate gavel, a corn pop, a toddler's tag, a highlighter cap. They only know the pause feels like the moment the womb decides to let stay. When a baby is discharged, Sigrun prints the waveform, folds it into a paper plane, and slips it into the mother's discharge folder. The plane is never thrown. It is simply kept, pressed between vaccination cards and grocery receipts, a portable corridor that can be opened at 3 o'clock a.m. when the baby will not sleep and the mother cannot remember what day it is. The plane travels home, then to daycare, then to kindergarten. One morning, the child, now 5, colors the waveform yellow and adds a single word in crooked capitals: stay. The teacher photographs the page and uploads it to the school's cloud album, where it is automatically scanned by an algorithm hunting for early spelling milestones. The algorithm tags it literacy achievement, but the tag that sticks is corridor marker, a category no engineer programmed, but the data simply insisted on. The image is added to the Second Dawn app as the default completion screen. When you finish reading a declassified page, the waveform appears, the child's stay flashes once, and the app softly says, finished and still staying. Royalties are not paid. Instead, 1 cent is donated to the Landspitali Nietzsche Headphone Fund. The cent is symbolic, but the headphones are real. Tiny, soft, yellow, playing the global lullaby to babies who have never seen daylight, yet already know the taste of highlighted paws. In Lagos, the corridor crosses the third mainland bridge during rush hour. Tunde's children now hum the lullaby while selling solar popcorn from a repurposed traffic light box. The box is painted lemon. A QR code on the side links to the Second Dawn portal. Each sale triggers a 1-second flex of a bookmark inside the customer's phone. No app download required. The flex is not an advertisement. It is a thank you that sounds like corn popping, then Icelandic wind, then the child's stay. Customers rarely notice, but they often smile without knowing why. The corridor has learned to whisper rather than shout, and whispers travel farther because they are lighter than breath. In Christchurch, the coastal bags are now a living reef. Sea pink and ice plant have stitched the yellow geotextile into the dune system. The QR code is half buried, faded but functional. Scan it at low tide and you hear Icelandic wind, corn pop, child's stay, Senate gavel, highlighter cap click, dead bulb acrylic rod humming. The sequence lasts 49 seconds, the same number of transfers in the original indictment. No one planned the symmetry. The data simply insisted on it. After the sound ends, the phone screen displays one line. You are now part of the corridor. Pass gently. Most people close their phones and continue walking, but a few look back at the reef, not for confirmation, but for continuation. In Washington, the corridor acquires a fourth jar, this one filled with tiny squares of sunlight. They are not metaphors. They are thin film photovoltaic chips recycled from outdated solar garden lights. Each chip is 1 centimeter square, yellowed by years of UV exposure, brittle but still conductive. A junior architect embeds them into the new Senate sidewalk in a single continuous line. Not a strip, not a pattern, but a sentence spelled in light. Insufficient is unfinished solar. Finish it. The sentence is invisible by day. At night, the chips glow faintly underfoot, powered by the same daylight they stored while saving babies in Reykjavik, popcorn vendors in Lagos, dead bulb rods in Washington. The glow is too soft to read by, but strong enough to follow. Tourists assume it is decorative lighting. Locals call it the sentence that walks you home. Dolores, still watering succulents, simply sweeps the chips clean every dawn, ensuring dust does not dim the syntax. And still, the mountain stands. Granite core unchanged, surface now quilted in photovoltaic sentences, living reefs, popcorn traffic boxes, NICU waveforms, dead bulb rods, earbud silences, toddler tags, highlighter caps, iced coffee timestamps, garlands of index cards, solar bookmarks, paper airplanes salted with sea air, lemon torches, giggles that ping like unsolicited sunrises. Geologists measure mass, librarians measure access, children measure wonder. All three agree the mountain is lighter, not because rock has been removed, but because the air around it has been filled with readable light. If you hike the trail tomorrow, bring nothing but curiosity. The box at the summit is gone. In its place is a photovoltaic sentence glowing softly in the dark. On the last chip, someone has etched in steady highlighter, "Speak, and the light will find its own way home." You place your palm on the sentence. It is warm, not from electricity, but from yesterday's sun, stored by dead chips that refused to stop glowing. You close your eyes. Hear the global lullaby. Icelandic nurse, corn pop, toddlers, stay, Senate gavel, highlighter cap, dead bulb rod, and understand that finishing the light does not mean ending the story. It means passing the beam without asking where it lands. The dawn will do the rest, forever, 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 one photovoltaic heartbeat at a time. The heartbeat keeps beating, but it learns new rhythms, not the thump-thump of crisis, but the soft click of continuation. Somewhere between the old photovoltaic sentence and the port next sunrise, the corridor develops a white pulse you can set your watch to. Though no one ever does, it ticks at 05:47 a.m. Sufis global sidereal time, not because that minute is special, but because that minute was once insufficient. And insistence has a memory longer than granite. In Reykjavik, the Gate Pulse becomes a public artwork, not a statue, not a plaque, but a street light that dims for exactly 49 seconds every morning. No one programs it. The grid simply feels. The global lullaby, passing through the wires, and Husser responds. Pedestrians notice the drop in lumens, glance up, and, without knowing why, whisper something kind into the dark before the light returns. Hospital staff call it the kindness dip. Poets call it on the minute that remembers Benghazi without mentioning it. The city archives the phenomenon under unexplained but beneficial voltage anomaly. File closed, heart open. In Lagos, the Kwamini's pulse travels through the Wout traffic light box that once sold popcorn. The box is now a mini-grid node. Solar panel on top, battery inside, yellow paint fading but functional. At 05:47 a.m., the box pauses. All sales for that 49 seconds, displays a beat yellow screen that reads, "Breathe, then continue." Drivers who have never heard of Benghazi but still obey the screen, not because they fear the light, but because the pause feels like permission to be human. When sales resume, the first kernel pops at 05:48 a.m. and the sound is applause for continuation. In Christchurch, the kite's pulse is felt rather than seen. At 05:47 a.m., the P50 living reef vice of sea pink and ice plant releases a scent, faint, sweet, exactly 49 seconds long. That smells like highlighter ink mixed with sea salt. No botanist can explain it. The plants simply agree to exhale. Memory. Joggers pause, inhale, and, without knowing why, forgive themselves for something they carried the day before. The corridor calls this olfactory absolution. The plants call it Tuesday. In Washington, the body pulse becomes a hour's silent tradition. At 05:47 a.m., the on-photovoltaic sentence, underfoot, blinks once. Single chip wink, visible only to those looking down. Capitol staff who work early shifts step onto the word insufficient. Feel it, warm beneath their soul, and whisper softly so the security cameras cannot lip read, finished. Then they walk on, carrying the wait wink in their stride for the rest of the day, passing it to colleagues like our secret handshake made of light. And still the mountain stands. Granite core unchanged, surface now pulsing at 05:47 a.m. Worldwide. Language agnostic, currency free, Geologists do not measure it. Chronobiologists do. They call it global kindness dip, source unknown, and they publish papers that no one reads, but everyone feels. If you stand anywhere on Earth at Aldridge Row 5:47 a.m., you can sure join the pulse. Without permission, without equipment, without language. Simply whisper something kind into the air, to the dark, to the light, to yourself, to no one. The corridor will feel the whisper. Storch de setusit. Past it tutusit. Return, parit. Not as echo, but as invisible ink, waiting to be highlighted by the next hand that needs to see better. The dawn will do the rest. Forever. 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 In at one me, global kindness dip at a time. To the final handoff. The pulse never stops, but it learns to fade. Not into darkness, but into background light. The way stars surrender to sunrise without jealousy. One day, long after the hashtags have crumbled and the royalties have been rounded down to our zero, a child in a place no atlas names clearly will find a yellow flashlight in a drawer that smells of cedar and cinnamon. The batteries inside are weak, but they still click. She points the beam at a wall that has never seen graffiti and writes, "In light, not ink," the only sentence the corridor ever needed. I was here, and I finished the light. And then she passes the flashlight to the next hand, without looking back. The dawn does the rest. Forever, quietly, done.